The song that enchants and haunts. By the banks of the Amazon rivers, as the sun sets and the forest falls silent, a sound cuts through time, a soft, sorrowful, irresistible melody. Fishermen call it the voice of Iara. A song, they say, capable of driving those who hear it to madness. But who is Iara? A legend, a myth, or a truth long forgotten? In popular imagination, Iara is described as a woman of supernatural beauty, bronze or fair skin, long shimmering hair, and eyes that hypnotize. She lives deep beneath the waters, emerging on quiet nights to sing and lure men, pulling them into the depths of the river. For centuries, her name has carried both fear and fascination. Mothers warn their sons, "Don't go near the river at night, or Iara will take you." But behind the myth lies a story, one of pain, violence, and resistance. Before becoming a mermaid, Iara was a woman, an indigenous warrior, wronged and betrayed. A victim of colonial narratives that turned her tragedy into folklore. What we now call legend was once the echo of a real story, the story of a woman who defied male power and paid the highest price for it. Before the myth, the indigenous woman named Iara. Long before colonization, before the word mermaid existed on these tropical lands, indigenous peoples of the Amazon already told stories about water spirits. These entities, called May de Agua, Ipupiara, or Waiara, in Tupi, Lady of the Waters, were nature spirits, guardians of rivers and fish. Among these stories, there was one about a woman warrior. Some say she was the daughter of a great shaman, others, that she was a fearless fighter admired for her wisdom and strength. Her name was Iara, from the word Iara, the feminine spirit of the water. Iara stood out among men. She hunted, fought, and decided as they did. Her courage inspired some and frightened others. The male warriors began to resent her power, claiming no woman should hold such authority. One day, they accused her of treason and condemned her to death. They tied stones to her body and threw her into the river. But, according to legend, the fish saved her, carrying her to the riverbed, where the water gods gave her new life. She was reborn as a spirit, half woman, half fish. From that day forward, Iara appeared on moonlit nights, calling men to the water, not out of cruelty, but vengeance. Justice for those who had tried to silence her. Thus, the legend of Iara was born, not from fantasy, but from the memory of a real woman turned symbol of feminine and indigenous resistance. The transformation, from indigenous spirit to colonial legend. When European colonizers arrived, they rewrote Iara's story. The Portuguese, familiar with their own sea sirens, merged their myths with the indigenous tales. Iara, once a protector of the waters, became a temptress, a sinner, a danger. A symbol of female strength turned into a warning against it. Christian missionaries reinforced this version. To them, the image of a wild, free woman defying men was heresy. So the tale was moralized. Iara became a punishment, a trap for unfaithful men and a warning to disobedient women. This fusion between indigenous spirituality and European morality reshaped the Brazilian myth. Iara became both feared and desired, purity and perdition bound together. Yet, deep in the riverside communities, the old respect survived. There, she is still seen not as a monster, but as a guardian, the justice of the waters. Songs of the forest, real stories from those who heard Iara. Over centuries, countless testimonies have described encounters with Iara. Fishermen claim to have heard her voice in the stillness of dawn, echoing through the curves of the Rio Negro or along the Solimões. Some say they saw a woman sitting on the rocks, combing her long hair with a golden comb as the moonlight reflected off her skin. When they drew closer, she vanished into the river. Others swear they felt an unseen force pulling them down, as if invisible hands were calling them. Some survived. Others, it is said, never returned. Anthropologists interpret these stories as cultural expressions, reminders of the deep bond between the Amazonian people and the living spirit of nature. The myth of Iara is not a superstition, but a way of remembering. The river is alive, sacred, and must be respected. The hidden meaning, Iara as a feminine symbol. Beneath her haunting beauty lies a deeper message. Iara represents the repressed feminine power, silenced, drowned, and reborn. Her transformation into a water spirit symbolizes the return to origin, rebirth within the element that gives life. Water becomes both her home and her weapon. In the Brazilian collective unconscious, Iara is the reminder that the feminine, when oppressed, returns with force and grace. Today, scholars of folklore and anthropology see Iara as an archetype of the free woman, the one who enchants and terrifies because she embodies the power of nature itself. Between myth and truth, the legacy of Iara. Centuries later, Iara's song still echoes. In books, songs, and films, her image remains alive, sometimes demonized, sometimes glorified. But her true origin tells a deeper story, of indigenous culture, of silenced women, and of spiritual resistance that endures through time. Iara is not just a legend, she is memory. A woman who, even in death and colonization, found her voice again through myth. And when the wind blows over the rivers of the Amazon, they say if you listen closely, you can still hear her song. Not as a threat, but as a reminder. Nature and the feminine always return, even when the world tries to drown them.